very much. I love that it always tells us that when it's being recorded, you know? Just in
case you want to leave now.
Okay, cool. We are filling up. Amazing. I like it when we can see the attendee number kind of just get higher and higher.
Yeah, I'm just going to silence my inbox because I know that it is.
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. We're going to wait a couple of minutes for everybody to come in, whether you are in quite sunny London, like Dija and I today, whether you are in New York. Charlotte, you are in New York, right? And then Dorion, whereabouts are you?
I'm in LA.
Not in LA. So depending on where you are, in a couple of minutes, you might need a coffee, a cup of tea, a snack. Hopefully we see some big numbers today. I'll just give you a couple of more minutes to come in, and then I will kick off with the third session of today's Cult Beauties Up Close on Skincare. Oh, rainy Glasgow, someone saying. Cloudy Ireland, rainy Glasgow. Okay. For once, I feel like us in London, we've got like...
It'll be raining tomorrow. The gods will equalize everything tomorrow. It'll be raining.
Sunny Barcelona, nice.
Hello,
sunny London.
Barcelona.
Winter nights in North India, wow.
Yes.
It's a global audience.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna kick off. And any kind of late arrivals, we'll just have to pick up where we get off. Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. I am Rhea Cartwright, Beauty Director at the Stack World and founder of the Black Beauty Council. I'm thrilled today on this sunny Sunday afternoon to be hosting the Melanated Skincare Chat on behalf of Cult Beauty. So I'm sure you'll know these familiar faces. I'm sure you've seen them all before, but I'm thrilled today to be joined by, first of all, Dija Ayodele, founder of the Black Skin Directory and now best-selling author of Black Skin. If you haven't got a copy, please get one ASAP. We have got Charlotte Cho, founder of the cult beauty brand Then I Met You. Again, I always say, if you have not tried their balm cleanser, I don't really know. And then last but by no means least, coming from LA, we have Dorion Renaud of Buttah Skincare. They make the most luscious shea butter based skin and body care. And again, if you've not tried it yet, I don't know what you've been doing. So we're going to be with you for 45 minutes talking all about specifically kind of melanated skincare and how different ethnicities and cultures kind of are affecting the beauty industry. So we're going to kick off straight away. And clearly we can see that this is, you know, a very kind of mixed ethnicity panel. It's something that I think whether, you know, obviously all of us here and then perhaps people watching at home, we're very familiar with the fact that the beauty industry has been a bit challenging for people of color, whatever color that may be. So I think, Dija, let's kick off with you. First and foremost, from a product perspective, how do we treat skin of color?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Cult Beauty, for putting these sessions on. So I think in answer to your question, how do we treat skin of color? I think one of the first things we have to kind of get out there is that from a physiological point of view, whether you are black or white, skin tends to function the same way. In the different layers of skin, in the basal layer, which is the very bottom layer, all the way through, we all function the same way. However, there are different nuances that come into play depending on your ethnicity. So therefore, there's different things that are going to affect you in slightly different ways. And from a product point of view and from a clinical point of view or treatment point of view, we have to then, that's when you have the layer of ethnicity on top of skin. That's where ethnicity and skincare and skin and the functions of skin intersect. So for example, you might find that darker skin tones tend to suffer more from the symptoms of hyperpigmentation and discoloration. I know in my clinic at Western Aesthetics, one of the biggest things I deal with is just literally hyperpigmentation. Secondly, black skin and darker skin tones tend to be, in most cohort studies, clinically drier. So we tend to have a lower level of, say, ceramides, a waxy substance in the upper layer of our skin, which makes us more prone to dryness. Which is why when you take off your tights in winter, in London or wherever it's cold, take off your tight shoes, kind of like itch first because your skin has lost so much moisture. Things like keloid scarring as well also tend to affect darker skin tones a little bit more. It's not to say that some of these things don't affect, say, someone who's got white skin. It's just that the extent to which they present on darker skin tones can be more. And also from a societal point of view, it can have a higher impact if you are Black or you have a darker skin tone.
Absolutely. I know, having spoken to you before, and I think it's one of those things that the kind of emotional side of these skin issues is discussed, right? We see it as, okay, there's a problem and then there's a product solution. But, you know, the scars, they're not only skin deep. Let's talk about maybe going in straight into the brands, because I'm really curious to know how your brands, Charlotte and Dorion, kind of cater. Charlotte, let's start with you. Obviously, as the founder of Soko Glam, this kind of K-beauty extraordinaire and mecca, you know, for everything in that respect. When you're formulating, and, you know, with Then I Met You, how do you lean on your culture and the ingredients that really thrive in Asian skincare that really now work both for your community and obviously, you know, the wider global landscape?
That's a great question, Rhea. So I think just like Dija mentioned, Asian skin, or, you know, different skin tones may have different experiences depending on your location, your ethnicity. And so with Asian skin in particular, just because that is my forte with Soko Glam and living in Korea and diving into that world, Asian skin also contains a lot of melanin producing cells, and that's actually easily damaged by sunlight. So as Dija mentioned, we are more prone to hyperpigmentation, and we actually have to be careful about applying aggressive peels because that could also lead to post-inflammatory pigmentation. So products that, you know, I love in Korean beauty, I think that like a very low percentage of exfoliants, chemical exfoliants, really help maintain your skin without it being too aggressive. Buttah has a vitamin C serum that's going to be great for brightening the skin tone and creating that glow. And I think those are the types of products that you can see the best results for Asian skin and for people that are dealing with pigmentation.
Amazing. And then Dorion, tell me about you with Buttah. I mean, listen, I always think, first of all, I love the name of your brand.
Thank you.
Very British, like butter, or do I say like I don't know where in the US? How did you go about formulating your brand, and why specifically did you really feel the need to launch something for people of color?
Well, unlike Charlotte and Dija, sorry, I am not an expert in skincare. I was a skincare lover. And, you know, I grew up in Texas, in the South, over here in the United States. And when people would compliment you, they would say, man, you look smooth as butter, or your skin looks as smooth as butter. And so I suffer from hyperpigmentation a lot growing up, and you know, I would pick, you know, the pimples on my face or touch things, and it would leave dark spots on my face. And as a man, it was just as I was just as insecure as maybe women would be, but we couldn't put makeup over that in high school and college. And you know, I found a routine of a gentle cleanser, a vitamin C serum that at the time I was paying way too much money for that I could not afford, and shea butter straight off the streets in Harlem. It was hard, and I started using those three things together and formulating my own little concoction out of those three things, and it started really working for my skin. And so even though shea butter can be a little heavy for some people, we expanded into our cocoa shea revitalizing cream, and then our oil-free gel cream, and they can all be used with our vitamin C serum, which is great for brightening. It's great for adding vitamins and getting those oxyantins into those skin, and really just protecting your skin in the sun and working with the sun. Vitamin C actually works with the sun, which is amazing. So you can put that on in the morning time or in the evening time and just go out into the day and let it work. And so, you know, Buttah is for us. I knew that Black people would understand the word. And clearly our British people understand the word too. And I feel like who doesn't want their skin to feel like butter? So that's how I started. And you know, we've expanded just from 3 products, and now we have over 25 in our line.
Oh, amazing. I think what I love with butter is When I think about like being with like the Black side of my family, like as you come out of the bath or the shower, straight away ran on one of my aunties, they're grabbing me, they're slathering me in moisturizer. I think everyone, like people from the Black community, it was shea butter, cocoa butter, like, and you would okay, I know we're open in, right?
Yes.
How does the brand, like, what from the community were you leaning on to kind of build out the pillars? I think what I love with both of your brands actually is how kind of you've lent on your respective communities to help build the brand. So Dorion, for you, like, how did the Black community and the culture help you grow?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I've been an actor and been in front of the camera for a long time. And so, I was struggling with putting makeup on my face every single day. So I was able to relate to women, number one. And so I leaned into the women and really listened to what they needed. We are a solution-based company. The first kit was my solution. And as we grew, I listened to my customers and our community, and I heard what they needed. And so I went to the lab and tried to give them products that they needed. And we really, really listened. I mean, I've had so much support from some of our largest celebrities in the business today to support us and get behind, and so many amazing Black people supporting me, a young male founder. If it wasn't for that, then Buttah would not be here. If we weren't listening to our community, listening to what they said in our Instagram comments, in our reviews, then we wouldn't grow to where we are now. So really just listening. I think, hearing them out and knowing that our skin is multidimensional, even though we are melanated people, that our skin comes in so many different shades and types and dryness and climates, and understanding that we are complex within our complexity.
It's such a good point, I think, as well. I think, quite often people will say people of color or Black people or Asian people. And it's like, that's a big spectrum.
That's a broad spectrum. Yeah.
For you, I'm so curious, because I know, for me, I always think, Dija, like, you're this powerhouse Black woman, catering, predominant. I know, like, when you launched the book, it was, the book is called Black Skin, because whilst I treat everybody, this really is a book front and center for Black people. How did you kind of lean into the community, and how, growing up for yourself, was it like navigating the beauty space as an esthetician? And then how did that kind of develop into you launching, your own space and the book and everything else that you've been doing?
I think fundamentally, I've always lent into Black women. I think one of the final lines in the book is like, and to Black women, thank you. I think for me, it was very much a nobody is in this space. I like to be in the lane that nobody else is in, because there's nobody to contend with. And so I've always lent on Black women. A lot of my friends are Black. I when we set up Black Skin Directory, I could spot a gap in the market to say that Black women want this, but it's not there. So how do we provide it and fill that gap in? So that's always been natural to me. It's been integral to how I've always set up my business, how I've worked. I think, when you go on my website, one of the first things it says is that Black women are my North Star. Let's not get that confused. I work with everybody, but I will always ask the question, how does this benefit the Black community first and foremost? Because we have always gone, until I say lately, underserved, underheard, and not part of the narrative, not sitting at the right tables, not even in the room and all that. So for me, that was very important. And even setting up my own clinic space, I just wanted a space where people of darker skin tones and Black women can come in and not feel nervous, not feel anxiety. I wanted to take away that legwork. It's so funny, because when white clients come into my clinic, they never ask, is this product suitable for me? It's because for so long we've lived in the default white world. So they never ask. It's an ungiven, it's just unheard of. While Black clients, even up until yesterday when I was in clinic, were asking me, is this suitable for me? Can I use glycolic acid as a Black woman? And even up until yesterday. So Black women will always have this anxiety, this added layer when it comes to their skin and how they look after their skin, because we know what it means to us to, you know, present ourselves in the world in your Sunday best at all times. You know, we have to work so hard. So all of that for me was a natural culmination of writing Black Skin. But because I am an educator at heart, I really wanted to write a book that would not only, yes, the first stakeholder be Black women and Black people, absolutely, but also the second stakeholders would be the industry as a whole, the industry ecosystem. And so whether, and that's for any type of person, any ethnicity of person, because I realized a long time ago that one of the most fundamental problems we have, or challenges, because I don't, you know, I see problems as challenges. One of the most fundamental challenges we have is with education. It's the fact that our education system, especially when it comes to beauty, does not take into account the nuances of skin. There are so many therapists, beauty therapists, estheticians who've read my book and fed back to me that I never learned that in college. I've learned more from your book, your consumer focused book. I've learned more about Black skin, and I feel more empowered to treat my Black clients just from reading your book. So for me, that even in service to Black women, I realized that I actually needed to go backwards a couple of steps and be in service to my industry, because it's only in educating my industry that Black women, Asian women, will be able to fully engage and participate in the enjoyment of beauty.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I think it's, you know, we've seen so much recently, and I think we see it on a beauty level, the kind of exclusion of people of color, you know, in the textbooks and when they're studying certain things. And then actually, you know, at a deeper level, because for me, one step above beauty is then medical. And then you see certain things that it's also still ignored from dermatologists. And it's this huge education gap where, you know, the studies, the patients, people of color just are quite often ignored from that. Charlotte, over to you as well. You are also an esthetician like Dija. Again, you know, a kind of founder of multiple brands now. I think what's so interesting with your brand and the explosion of K-beauty kind of over into the Western world is, what was the catalyst, right? Obviously, you've been in the space for such a long time. But I'm curious in terms of your thoughts of what was the main driver for a lot of these, you know, different ingredients, and, you know, something like a sheet mask 4 or 5 years ago was like a real treat. You know, it was almost hard to get your hands on one, whereas now they are everywhere. What were the drivers, you know, when you first launched Soko Glam? Were you like, yeah, I know that K-beauty is going to be the next big thing? Or were you surprised with how large the market's appetite for it has become?
Great question. So I'll step back and share a little bit about my journey so that I could share some of the journey and how it evolved over the years. I think Dorian mentioned earlier on that, you know, he said that I was an expert in skin. I wasn't always an expert in skin. When I was growing up in California, I literally did not wash my face. I didn't have a good, you know, cleansing routine. I left my makeup on all the time. I knew nothing because I was born and raised in California. When I went to Korea, I completely fell in love with the culture of skin and how everyone was so obsessed with taking care of their skin at a very young age. And it was part of the culture, you know, going to bathhouses, exfoliating your whole body, you know, making sure you're using a moisturizer, using humidifiers to make sure the water content in the air is good for your skin. So I was just really, really excited to see this kind of culture, and I wanted to share what I had learned. So I basically started Soko Glam to introduce my favorite Korean beauty products and also share everything that I wanted to, the techniques that I had learned as well. So when I went in 2012, when I started Soko Glam, you know, no one was really talking about Korean beauty in that way. And it was a great opportunity for me to kind of share my culture, because I actually grew up pretty ashamed of being Korean, being the only Asian kid other than me and my sister in a predominantly white school. And so growing up, my only role models was like Jennifer Aniston for Friends, or people that didn't look like me. I think that's what was so exciting about being part of this movement, is that no one really cared about Korean beauty, but when Soko Glam came into play and people were ready to learn about skin in a more fun and engaging way, which Korean beauty is all about, you know, packaging's fun. The ingredients are really interesting and innovative. Even the package, even the type of way you apply skincare, like sheet masks, was just an exciting way to discover. And I think the catalyst, to answer your question very specifically, was number one, the price point was perfect, because it's before K-beauty, it was more about like the drugstore brands, and then you got like the really expensive, more mainstream like L'Oreal, Estee Lauder type of brands at department stores. And then you got and K-beauty was right in the middle, where it was accessible in price point. So I think people really enjoyed that. And I believe social media had a lot to do with it. People were posting about their routines, sharing their routines, and showing how they were discovering different brands. And lastly, I think it has to do with pop culture. There's a momentum of acceptance in Asian culture, Korean dramas, Korean movies, series. BTS is, a giant in music now. And I think like Korean and Asian culture is kind of in vogue now. I think that helps with Korean beauty's acceptance. So it's been an exciting time to be in the space for sure.
I think an exciting time to be like an innovator in that space as well, right? Like not only being in it, but being at the forefront of it. Your point you mentioned then, like growing up as a Korean in America, and Jennifer Aniston being your kind of idol, the person you would look up to. I'm curious now, when you're then starting a business and looking for those kind of business inspirations, I think if we think about the last couple of years, specifically socially, there's been lots of issues in terms of, the Black and also Asian communities. And I often think when you're then a founder, there is an added layer to that and the kind of difficulties you experience. So Charlotte, I think that's continuing with you. As a Korean founder, how has that been kind of navigating spaces where you are at the top, so to speak, but you're still, very much a minority? How has that been navigating that space within an industry that ultimately is very centered towards white people?
Yes, I would say that I told you I knew nothing about beauty when I started So Good Glam. It was just a side project. It was never meant to be a big business. It was almost set up like an shop. I was just trying to do what I was passionate about. And it kind of snowballed from there, and it really ended up taking off. But you're right. I knew nothing about beauty. I had no prior beauty experience. I got my esthetician license after I started So Good Glam because I got so many questions from customers asking to help with their skin. And so I wanted to study it. But yeah, I felt a little alienated in the industry because I knew no context in space. But when I started digging into the space, everyone was Caucasian, female or male, leading these large brands and companies. But I have to say, they did welcome me. It was a welcoming experience, but it did feel, that it was predominantly, the majority is Caucasian. And I do remember my friend who used to work at one of the largest corporations for beauty. They did an actual presentation about K-beauty and the rise of K-beauty. And at the time, they said, there's no way Korean beauty is going to take off. This was like at a big corporate presentation. They said, the chairman actually said, there's no way Korean beauty is going to take off. The routine is too extensive, and American consumers are just not going to gravitate towards essences and double cleansing and all of that. And they even put a picture of So Good Glam, and they talked about how, Korean beauty is on the rise. And then 2 years later, they had a similar yearly annual presentation. And that same chairman had said, Korean beauty is here to stay, and we're going to join them. And it was a great, transition, because K-beauty obviously took off, and it wasn't a hot flash in the pan. People were getting educated about skin through learning about the intensive skincare routine. And it was a great moment, pivotal moment for me to know that, this Caucasian male, chairman was saying that, K-beauty is here to stay, and what we're going to do is we're going to join them. So you'll see that they've adopted essences and cushion compacts and all these Korean technologies, pimple patches into their lines, and they predominantly create a lot of products in Korea now. So I think that's been great, and I've loved the way the industry has changed so quickly, and how a lot of consumers have embraced Korean beauty, and that's why I really look forward to the future of beauty with Buttah. I see that 1 million reviews on your site with all of your products. I think people are liking it's a little niche in the sense that we're like hyper focused on different ethnicities, but anyone could use it. It's not like only Asian people could use Korean beauty, or only Black people could use your line. So, but I know that you gear your line towards some of the common skin concerns Black people may have. But I think it's great. And I think that this is a force for the beauty industry, and we're going to make a difference. And actually these larger companies are concerned, a little concerned, because they may not be able to talk about it as well as maybe you can.
I think as well, I think, Charlotte, to your point, it's about the authenticity. You know, I think when you have a large corporation trying to speak to specific communities, it often, and I'm sure we've all seen it, comes across as a bit, you know, doesn't have the authentic nature. It will be like maybe the language choice or the marketing. It just doesn't land.
Yes.
Dija, as a Black woman, again, like navigating this space, how has that experience been? You know, I always I remember when we first met and I was like, what were you doing before? Like before you were an esthetician, and you told me, you know, you had the blog and the rise of the blog, and, you know, you were really at the forefront of blogging culture before you then, you know, had the atelier and had the book. So for you, experiencing it from your lens, how has that process been, and what are the challenges that you've had to fight?
I always say I was one of the original sort of beauty bloggers in that era. But personally, I don't know if it's because I come from an investment banking background or anything like that, but personally, I haven't struggled to get into the beauty industry. There have been occasions where I've just been like, well, you're an idiot because you kind of want to treat me like that, and I'm not going to be treated like that. So there have been occasions like that when I was like, you know, please don't. But on the whole, I have always found the beauty industry to be open, welcoming, so long as you are a hard worker. It's a grafting industry, especially when you work in a clinic environment, and you start off as a therapist, you know, doing pedicures and waxing and all that sort of stuff. It's a grafting industry. So personally for me, I haven't struggled much in that area, but I have been witness to, and I have seen things. I don't know if it's just a personality thing where I've just been like, oh, that's not going down like that with me. But you know, but I have witnessed, which is why, because I have witnessed, and I don't disregard people's experiences, I always try and be a helping hand. I always try and be like, well, I'm going to this room, so, you know, I'm going to have you come with me to that room so we can be there together, so I'm not the only Black person in this. I've always lent a hand. And I think that's how I get called Auntie Dija, because I'm always like, you know, trying to get everybody like, come on, guys, let's do this. Let's go and, you know, conquer this whole situation. But I have watched the industry change, and I have watched the industry become much more open to questioning it itself, especially in the UK. So I don't know much about the States, but I have worked with colleagues who, especially before Black Lives Matter and all that a couple of years ago, didn't really question anything. Or if I said something to them, and you do know that you're saying that because you're white, you don't have any other reason, and they would get very defensive and try and, you know, almost gaslight the situation. But now I find that people are a lot more open to go, oh, okay, then, well, let's talk about this. I find that is a much more open and collaborative way of working, that people are willing to listen to feedback and criticism sometimes in order to be better. So I have found that the industry has changed, and it's constantly changing. I don't think there's a destination. You know, it's not like we're going to be like, we're not going to wake up one day and be like, right, we're there. It's always going to be a moving target, and in terms of diversity and inclusivity, because I think we've done diversity and stuff like that. However, I don't think we have quite finished off with inclusivity just yet. I think there's many ways in which the industry can still be inclusive. And for me, that again comes back to education, because brands are doing so much at the moment. The amount of brands I work with behind the scenes, they are doing so much about diversity and inclusivity, but I'm always hit against the wall where people just don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. And it comes back to education. So we have to almost go grassroots and do that education at grassroots about different cultural aspects of skincare. For example, like we've got Korean skincare, we've got rituals in Black skincare, that you know, the whole coming out the bathroom, share butter straight away, and all that sort of stuff. We've got rituals there. So we actually need to do that step back into education in order to help brands be better. Because brands, you know, if I'm absolutely honest, hand on heart, the majority of brands are really trying. But if you have a team where people just don't know,
Yes.
then they don't know, and you've got to educate them.
Yes.
Yeah, Dorian, I'm going to go to you because I think it's very interesting. You know, I think when at the height of Black Lives Matter in 2020, there was such a disparity in terms of how it was handled in the US versus the UK. And obviously, whilst we entirely feel the ramifications over here and have our own set of, you know, racial issues, I think in the US, it was the epicenter of it. For you as a Black man, and I think, again, actually adding in the gender, you know, I think beauty, the industry has been so gendered, so targeted towards women, which that ignores not only men, but also ignores, you know, non-binary people. How was it for you navigating, or how is it for you rather, navigating the space as a Black male founder? What are the you know, the pros and the cons of that?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I think when you think about beauty, you do not think about men in particular. And so I had no idea, because I love skincare so much, and I was trying my best to do my education and talk to people. I would go in stores and ask them what products work best for my skin. And not only as a Black person, but as a man, I was like put very last. And I wasn't so welcomed in at first. I mean, beauty is, you know, known as a women's sport in a way. And I had to help redefine what beauty was for men as well, non-binary people, men that were embarrassed. I found that a lot of men would hit me in my DMs and come up to me, and they were so embarrassed about using their girlfriend's products or using products that did not feel like they were for men, but they often struggle with some of the issues that everybody with skin struggles with. And so first and foremost, as a man, knowing that my main consumer would be women, though, I had to surround myself around women and listen to their concerns and be gentle with the word beauty, because the word beauty can be an empowering word, but it can be a touchy word as well, especially coming from a man. I never wanted to be misogynistic, or I never wanted to try to define what women's beauty should be or what men's beauty should be. So I always approached it with a lens from the audience, a lens from my mother, a lens from my sister, not only myself, because I didn't want women to come in and think that I was trying to redirect how they saw themselves in beauty, right? And we're being very honest here. You know, it was a challenge going in, because number one, I would go in and speak to editors and they would say, well, what do you know about skincare? You're not an esthetician, you're not a woman, you don't struggle with makeup. And I would say, I know as much as I have struggled with, okay? And I know as much as I have dealt with. And so I took some of the things that I had problems with and I tried to find solutions. And, you know, I took anecdotes from my ancestors, from my grandmother who would put Vaseline on. And I knew that for us, that the thickness of some products worked for us. But I would also, one of the first women who I loved that started doing my skin was a Korean woman. And when I got to LA, I would go to Koreatown and I would go to her and she would use all these incredible things on my skin. And then I would go to this Russian woman who was doing my skin. And so I think that, you know, trying to find out the solution is calling on our brothers and sisters and other ethnicities and other nationalities and listening to their stories. And, you know, looking at you are a fair-skinned Black woman and Dija's a brown-skinned Black woman. So you two skin is not the same. My skin is not the same. I grew up in Texas. And so really understanding that is so different. And coming from a male perspective, really giving men the confidence to not only have to use their girlfriends or their sisters or their mother's products, but to walk in a store, find something that they can be confident to use, and that it would be easy, they would have education behind it, and that they didn't feel embarrassed to use. Because oftentimes a lot of these men with this dry skin or bad skin, it wasn't because their skin was bad, it was because that they didn't understand how to take care of it, and they weren't using products that they felt comfortable with, that weren't, you know, in your bags or in their mom's bags. And that's why I was so conscious about the packaging and it being unisex and being educational and feeling like it was for everybody. Because I remember like sneaking and using my sister's pink Neutrogena or something like that, and not wanting to bring it with me to the locker room. And so I think that as a man, you know, making skincare comfortable as it is for you all, and listening to the women and listening to everybody, is how I have the best approach coming into the skincare business.
I think, you know, I think what I love about speaking to all three of you is that the thread throughout, whether we're talking about either, you know, products for certain skin concerns or the future of the industry, full stop, it still lies in education, right? So it's whether it's, you know, a Black or an Asian consumer understanding that, yeah, you know, because of your melanin rich skin, you are more prone to hyperpigmentation, because the more melanin, the more possibility that can become. Or it could be, you know, a brand and them understanding and learning that actually to speak to consumers, to be open to consumers, you still have to do that core piece of learning there. I'm conscious of time, so before we head over to questions, my last question for all of you is, you know, we are, I think, I would say like a bit of a turning point for the future of diversity within beauty. You know, I think the last couple of years, as I said, because of, you know, social tragedies, it's really brought things to the forefront and allowed conversations to flow. And as Dija mentioned before, for people to be a bit like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm hearing you now, because they've perhaps been forced to listen. So what for you, what does the future of diversity, beauty and diversity look like? Dija, just to start with you, you know, as you mentioned in your book and your kind of your mission, like Black women are always your North Star, which I love. For an industry as a whole, you know, what is something that you would love to see in the future from the industry in terms of making everybody feel accepted?
For me, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but education, literally from, I don't know how the American system works, or I have a vague idea, but in the UK system, you'd go to beauty college, say when you're 16 or something like that. It starts from there. That's the basics, because if you're churning out beauty professionals who don't have all the knowledge and have been exposed to all skin types and had training on all ethnicities, then your foundation is broken. And that's what we've had, and that's what, you know, we currently have. The foundation is broken. When we launched Black Skin Directory in 2018, with the mission of connecting women of color to professionals, one thing that came pretty obvious very quickly within the first few months is that the professionals didn't have some of the knowledge that we required them to have in order for us to connect the Black women with them in the first place. So it's like, and that's when I realized that you kind of have to work backwards in this, which is why even this week, we've got a global education platform launching for skin of color within Black Skin Directory, and that launches on Tuesday. So it's a case of, for me personally, before brands can do anything and brown founders can do anything, that we have to go back and strengthen our foundations are the young people coming through the industry, and they need a wide breadth of education.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlotte, for you, I'm curious, I'm sure you agree with Dija, but for you, what's that dream that you would love to see in terms of diversity within the industry?
I think it's just acknowledging when a routine or technology originated somewhere, and, you know, making sure you give them that credit. Gua sha, as an example, came from, you know, it's a tool that's used in China, and, you know, being able to acknowledge that in the marketing materials, it's a small thing, you know, but it shows respect to, you know, that the origin of that beauty practice, or that ingredient or that technology. And I also think that it's really important to support people that are going against the grain and talking about these niche categories, or things that haven't been talked about loud and proud, or things that haven't been spotlighted enough. I loved Dija's comment about saying how she likes to go against the grain and be in spaces that aren't really tackled. And I would say support Dija and her book, Black Skin. I think that I wouldn't be where I am today if people didn't support me and my mission to share Korean beauty practices. I would not be here today, you know, creating Then I Met You without all the support of these communities that have decided to support someone that wanted to do something that no one was really, you know, talking about. So I think that's really important in this industry, to support people who are doing things differently, talking about things that are rarely talked about in the mainstream in a very genuine way. And so that's just kind of the advice and overall feeling I have towards that. And also, you know, similar to giving credit, I think if you are enjoying these practices or enjoying these technologies that originate from the country, you know, if you see a racist act against the type of person, then please stand up or say something about it. You can't just enjoy one part of the culture and then be quiet when that, you know, person or community is being, you know, experiencing hatred or a racist act.
I mean, absolutely. Yes. Dorion, that same question, obviously, for you. What would be your hope to see in terms of the future of diversity?
Well, I agree with both of those women. Like, wow. Kudos to both of you, because the education, again, is so important. I think going back to go forward, like Dija said, is so important and imperative. You know, when I would go into my esthetician, or some of them prior to me starting Buttah and really finding somebody that can really work on my skin, you know, they didn't understand Black skin. And so really having people that are experts in that field, in that particular lane. And also with Charlotte, like she said, supporting and acknowledging, you know, where you get those practices from. And we have to be proud of ourselves and our diversity in order to put that out into the world. And what I hope for the future of beauty and diversity is that us three here, along with tons of other people that are pushing this narrative, I hope that in 20 years, we don't have to do a panel about diversity in beauty, because I think that beauty is so diverse in general. We have all grown up seeing different types of beauty and being proud of those different types. So I hope that the stigma of diversity in beauty is out the way. You know, I hope that we are the leaders of the new school again, because I think if we go back to our grandmothers, all three of us, we know that they were strong in their routines. Whatever their routine was, you know, it was a part of their DNA. And I think that has gotten lost in the media throughout the years. I think that's gotten lost in how we see ourselves throughout the years. And so I hope that we are celebrating diversity and not defending diversity years to come. And I hope that, you know, we walk into stores and we see more people like Dija and Charlotte doing what they do without necessarily having to explain what they do. I think that we in the US, I got really tired of talking about my brand in conjunction with Black Lives Matter, because I feel like Black Lives Matter always, Asian lives matter always, everybody's lives matter always. But at that time period, I had to step up for my people and some of the struggles that I went through here. But I did feel it a bit unfair that I had to defend my business as a Black business first, instead of a great skincare business that was founded by a Black man targeted to Black people. I didn't want the negativity of certain situations or the fight of certain situations to translate into my business. And I didn't feel like a lot of those things were fair when it came down to the press. I felt like every single time I did a press interview, I was talking about George Floyd or Black Lives Matter instead of empowering us and educating us for our skincare. And so I don't think that every time that we see a hate crime against Asian people or Black people or any other race, that we should use it as a marketing ploy for our skincare brands or our businesses. I think we should defend, we should stand up, and we should be strong for who we are, our people, and equality. But I think that if I could hope for anything in the future, it is that our brands stand just like the brands that came before, and that we are not having to defend diversity and equality, and that everybody walks in the store and they feel equal.
Yeah,
including
I think that whilst I'm sure we are all thrilled to be here on this panel today, is that realistically, in 20, 30 years, one would hope that there doesn't have to be a panel that is specifically, because it will just be part of the quote unquote norm. I'm being flagged with multiple 5-minute warnings from the Cult Beauty team. So I'm going to just jump quickly to some questions. We might only have time for one, unfortunately, but let's get through them. So we have got some very specific skincare questions. So I will open them up to all three of you, and if you can give some advice. So question number one we have, what would you recommend for pockmark and enlarged pore scarring? And also, are they even possible to improve? Maybe Dija or Charlotte for that one.
It's always a little bit challenging to answer these sort of questions. I don't know how old you are. I don't know what your background is or things like that. But generally for pores, things like especially if you've got oily skin, try and get some salicylic acid into your routine to help decongest the skin a little bit. Some gentle exfoliation, maybe some lactic acid. Also consider using some sort of retinoid, for example. Those are all topical things you can use, i.e. you can just apply them on your skin at home over the counter. But if you wanted to consider some things further, like chemical peels, microneedling, all that sort of stuff helps to stimulate collagen in the skin, helps to plump out the skin as well. So that can ease the appearance. So yes, you might not be able to get rid of them completely, depends on the cause as well, but you may be able to improve the appearance of them on the skin.
Amazing. Charlotte, let's imagine we have someone that's like, oh, I really want to go and buy a brand new Then I Met You product. If you had to pick just one product from your brand, what would you say is an absolute hero? Probably like picking a favorite child, I'm sorry, but what?
It probably is a Living Cleansing Balm. It's actually currently sold out in Cult Beauty right now because it is pretty popular. But, I have to be honest as a founder, and although Living Cleansing Balm is 100% by far the most popular product, I would have to say the Birch Milk Refining Toner is my favorite, because I actually dealt with hormonal acne starting at 30. From 30 to 35, I dealt with hormonal acne, and that's why I created that product to help maintain my skin with a 1% acid complex, which has PHA, which is a little more gentle than lactic or glycolic, and it really helped me clear my skin, decongest my skin. And so when anything helps you with acne, that becomes my holy grail versus, like, a cleansing balm is super nice and like there's aromatherapy part behind it and it really smells great. But I think the acne part, clearing that for me helped me most of all.
I did actually use the essence, the toner this morning, and it is very, very, very good.
Okay, essence, you tried the essence. The pinkish tone, that one has 5% niacinamide, which is great for brightening and everything.
Dorion, for you, if
yes.
someone is like, oh, I really want to buy my first butter product, what are you recommending? What is that hero product?
I would say get the kit. The kit comes with a gentle cleanser, the vitamin C serum, which is amazing for brightening. And you can pick your moisturizer out, whether it's a heavier moisturizer for our people over there in the UK who are dealing with the cold weather sometimes, or the Cocoa Shea. And then we have our oil-free. Start with the kit. It's easy, it's efficient. Read Dija's book to learn more about your skin. Support Charlotte and learn more about Korean beauty. And as far as our products go, hey, you can use multiple products. Our products are interchangeable with other people's products. Learn your skin, know your skin type, get educated on your skin, and then take our skin quiz, which we have on our site, to find out what products work best for you. So I can't do it without saying go back to the education and learn your skin type. I learned a lot from these ladies this morning, and so I'm taking notes from them.
Amazing. Thank you so much to all three of you. Thank you to everybody for watching. We're having to end because we are all finished. This will be on YouTube, I believe, next week. And you've got your fourth and final cult beauty session starting in about 10 minutes. So have a fabulous Sunday and we'll catch up with you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Thank
Everybody
you.
have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.